It's one of the hottest Senate races in the country. And for the Democratic challenger, Congressman Kendrick Meek, the Florida battle is getting tougher and tougher. A new CNN Time Magazine Opinion Research Corporation poll shows he has just 23% voter support. That's nearly 20 percentage points behind his Republican opponent, Marco Rubio, and 8 percentage points behind the independent challenger, the current governor, Charlie Crist. In a Quinnipiac University poll, also out this week, voter support for Rubio is more than double what it is for Kendrick Meek. Kendrick Meek is here now in the Situation Room. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in.
Glad to be on the show again.
Walk us through your strategy, how you can overcome this huge deficit over these next 4 weeks.
Well, first of all, there was a Mason-Dixon poll released on Sunday saying that we're 4 to 5 points behind the governor, and we're going to gain more strength as we move through this process.
The governor, but how many points behind the Marco Rubio?
Well, we're going to pass the governor, because the governor is really sad at this particular time. I mean, just today at the Palm Beach Post editorial board, he said if he was 20 points up in the Republican primary, he still would have left the Republican Party. I mean, it's gotten to the point that it's sad. Even here on this show was the first time he said he was against the stimulus. So you see, you're fighting, because most of the time you're spending fighting Crist as opposed to Rubio. Well, you're sort of dividing up that Democratic vote. Well, here's the story. I mean, there's been a lot of falsehoods told to Democratic voters in the state of Florida that the governor will stand up for them. I am the only candidate that will be able to defeat Marco Rubio. This race has turned into who can defeat a very extreme candidate. This man got his birth from the Club for Large Corporations. The Club for Growth. That have been behind his campaign, the Tea Party behind his campaign. So what has to happen in the days forward is making sure that we share with Floridians the extreme views of Marco Rubio.
And some of those ads that you've been putting out paint him as a real conservative. But your former colleague, Robert Wexler, a Democratic congressman from Florida, he just came out the other day and endorsed Charlie Crist, saying Charlie Crist has repeatedly demonstrated the integrity and independence Washington needs right now to help Florida's working families through these tough times. I am proud to endorse Charlie Crist for the United States Senate. How big of a problem is it when these Democrats, like Robert Wexler, endorse Charlie Crist?
Not a big problem when you have the endorsement, like I have, of Ted Deutsch, who's the sitting congressman now in that district, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and the host of Alcee Hastings, Corinne Brown, Kathy Castor up on I-4 corridor, Alan Grayson. When you look at the overwhelming endorsements that I have, let's look at it. Robert Wexler went to Charlie Crist's wedding, his inauguration, said that George Lemieux was a good pick when they needed a Democrat to say that George Lemieux, who was the campaign manager of Charlie Crist. But here's the real issue here, Wolf. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty on who Marco Rubio is. Marco Rubio got his birth from a very extreme group of individuals that want to privatize Social Security, that want to roll back.
Why is he doing so well in Florida right now in all of these polls? He's way ahead of Charlie Crist and you.
Because Charlie Crist, he allowed him to take over the Republican primary. He was able to go out there and raise a lot of money. He was able to get high up in the polls. Charlie Crist decided to fight me in this race for Democratic votes versus fighting for the votes of Florida. Charlie Crist has been a lifelong Republican. Marco Rubio has been a lifelong Republican. These are not backbenchers. These are individuals.
Have any of these Democrats asked you to drop out of this race and give Charlie Crist? Nobody has come to you.
I'm the person that's nominated by hundreds of thousands of Floridians. Charlie Crist, all he did was walk down to the supervisory elections office, became an independent out of convenience versus conviction. What it's going to take, Wolf, to beat Marco Rubio is conviction. Health care was a good thing. 3,500 Floridians lose their health care every week. That's a fact. That's not fiction. When you look at the issue of offshore oil drilling, Charlie Crist will change in the win on that issue. Marco Rubio, the oil companies are happy to have him.
So you're in this to fight. You're fighting all the way until the end.
Oh, let me tell you something. My faith drives me to never give up. And the bottom line, I have no reason to give up. People are going to start to focus on this race. They're looking for a true fighter. Someone's going to stand up for the middle class. Someone's going to stand up to protect the state of Florida, and that's me.
Showing some excitement and some passion. Kendrick Meek, thanks for coming in. Good luck.
Thank you.
We've invited Marco Rubio and Charlie Crist to come in as well. We're inviting a lot of the candidates over the next 4 weeks to come into the Situation Room and explain their stance. Appreciate it very much.
I look forward to being back.
Thank you.